think some people have the impression that when you're taking portraits, you're usually working with somebody who sits still and will follow direction.
Uber! Come back here, sweetheart. All right, stay. Good. Back, 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 back. There you go.
Often, especially when it comes to children, you are very much meeting them where they are. So the energy they bring when you pick up the camera, you've got to match that or calm it down or rise it up based on what you're trying to get in terms of the end result.
Too bad we're not getting anything out of her. It's a shame. Go nose to nose and scream at each other.
Patience is probably the #1 kind of aspect you can bring to the table when it comes to photographing children and pets. It's very unlikely that you're going to get this shot right away. It's not that you can't get it, but most likely you're going to set it up again and again, and you're going to come at it from a different angle, and you're going to try different equipment, and then you'll get something that you love and you know you worked hard for.
We'll go right over here, and I'm going to take some of you right like that.
When I walk into a shoot, I am extremely conscious of the energy I'm bringing in with me.
Just like that. And you'll stay there.
If I'm sitting at my desk just working, I'm like maybe at a here. If I walk into a shoot, I'm gonna be at a here.
Wait, hold on. Ah! What are you doing? You have to go. Ah!
You put out a lot more than maybe people consider just by the way you are showing up in a shoot. For the most part, bringing it in at this level means they're gonna join you there.
I'm gonna hold her while they're out. There she is.
When my subjects who are children
Lovely.
show up for a shoot,
Great.
I've got a really good immediate read on who this child is and what I'm gonna face when I go into the shoot. It doesn't take like a half hour to read a situation or a child. It can honestly be within 60 seconds. In a situation where a child is literally running away from you constantly, and that's the game that they're playing and they're having fun, you've got to figure out how do you get the shots you want to take, but you don't overcome their energy in a way that shuts them down so that you don't have that liveliness. And it ends up meaning that you're dealing with a lot of chaos and you've got to respond very quickly to be able to get the look you want, but keep the energy flowing throughout the rest of the shoot. If you have a child who's very much the superstar, the one who wants to perform for you, you have a very hard time getting a natural, authentic look. What you want to do is be able to break them out of that and change the mood a little bit, but again, still keeping them engaged and showing them that you're having a fun time with them. If I have a child who comes in and is clearly resistant, is either very shy or doesn't want to be there or is done much earlier than you want to be done taking these photographs, and then you're just going to be looking up at me, and I'm going to go all the way over there, but I'm going to get a close-up of you. It's going to be crazy. Can you do it? Can you do it? Yes, you can. One of the things that really helps pull children like that out a little bit is distraction techniques.
What's not hard to see is he is bored out of his mind. Like he's not even there. I could say anything I want about him. And dinosaurs and gun machines. And there we go. And he's back.
Literally not only changing the subject, but changing their point of view or using some sort of verbiage that surprises them or confuses them.
How's a pig sound? That's how a pig sounds.
People have asked me before, what words do you use over and over? What words work? I'm like, it's not that the specific words work, it's more, how do I take you from this mode where you're done and want to leave and get you engaged in a way that flatters you when I take your portrait?
Go ahead and knock her in the knees with the reflector and bring it back. Yes. Yes.
Today, you see a lot of kids of various ages who have a look that they've perfected because they are used to taking photographs of themselves. And you can tell, you raise the lens, they give you that look, and you're like, you've practiced that a bunch of times, haven't you? One of the ways that you can tell the difference between a preconditioned smile and an authentic smile is literally looking at the face. You can see a strain around the eyes. You can see the smile doesn't reach the eyes versus a natural, fluid, just honest response. And when you see that flip and you hold those two images up next to each other, you're like, okay, that was the cheese, and that is the real, genuine response. I feel like one of the best ways to get more genuine expression is to not constrict the experience to the shot, you know? The idea is I'm shooting ahead of time, I'm shooting during the actual portrait that I kind of set up, and then I'm shooting afterwards and keeping my camera really close while I have interactions, because oftentimes they'll get the shot, it's perfect, it's beautiful, and then some silly comment will be made, and that's the awesome laugh that I want to be able to be right there, all set and ready to go.
There we go. Come on, let's hear it. Okay, now you're just a pretzel.
There are a couple things to keep in mind when a child is a little bit out of it or tired or zoning out or even sad. Those are beautiful images too. You can't all be happy and smiling and jumping around. You want to show the true spectrum of human emotion. And so if I'm in a situation where, especially a younger child, pouts or cries or even gets upset, I'm going to go ahead and keep clicking while I'm resolving the situation. I'm not going to, again, put the camera away and figure out how to bring her back up.
She likes the kiss.
Often that good variety are those happy accidents that you're just shooting through, and then later you look back and you're like, that was even better than I thought it was when I shot it. I try not to use phrases that are directional in regards to statements like smile.
Oh, good.
Because what I'm trying to do is earn it.
Love it. Do that again. Oh, perfect.
I think it's important to go ahead and give the feedback that this is going great. I love that smile. That's wonderful.
Beautissimus. Gorgeous.
That can work very well to be able to make sure that you're getting more of those great shots.
Gorgioso. Done and done. Good job.
I wish that every single time I walked into a shoot, I had the perfect location, the perfect lighting, the exact gear I needed at all times for every single situation, and the subject who was so ready to be there and as authentic and as natural as possible. This is usually never the case.
And our backlight's gone. This is not normally the direction I would shoot in terms of the background, but sometimes you're stuck, right?
Put that leg up. All right, I'm gonna start with the, that is putting your leg up, isn't it? Like this. Like that. Oftentimes you'll have a situation where you walk into a home or a location and you have a shot you want to get. I want this pose on this couch or in this area, and I want to show you what to do and I want you to do it. Half the time that may work, but most of the time you're going to find that even the half that does work is not at all how you envisioned, and you've got to be able to roll with it.
All right, come on up and do that. Good. Stay.
In a situation where no matter what you're doing, the child's not responding or the lighting's not working or whatever sort of scenario might present itself, it's best to just kind of call it and move to another spot. All right, let's go over here and try something similar or maybe something radically different, but let's just keep moving versus let's try this so much that I'm not gonna get anything and you're gonna be miserable.
Okay, all right, that's a good shot to start with. And then maybe we turn that around a little bit like this.
Thinking about what your subject would best respond to, whether it's location or situation or activity, can go a long way in terms of mitigating any concerns you might have to battle when you're doing a photo shoot. When I think about children, there are some children that will just do so much better when they're out in a field and they're running around or jumping in a pool or whatever the case might be, whatever makes them come alive, versus other personality types that would do a lot better in a quiet room where it's just dim and everybody's soft, and that's where they're gonna shine. With pets, sometimes the dog is just not comfortable on the floor. The dog wants to be on a rug or on a couch or something, and you're gonna get a much better response from that animal. Teens, I think about senior portraits. Senior portraits, it's not really that much fun to do a senior portrait in your home or your backyard. Try a cafe, a coffee shop, outside at a bistro table, something like that. Just mix it up in a way that that subject will really respond. Perfect, okay. I shoot everything in manual mode. And I do that because I want complete control over my settings. I want to be able to say, okay, great, we've got a terrible background. I'm going to shoot this at a very shallow depth of field, but I know that means I'm going to have a trade-off with shutter speed if I have a non-moving subject, where normally I don't necessarily have to worry about shutter speed.
All right, Eva, we're going to do a shot like this. I normally wouldn't put you in front of what's behind you. Don't look at it, it's terrible looking. It's like trash cans, containers, recycling, service trucks. But so every so often you're just kind of stuck and you got to make a shot work. So if I were to shoot this with everything the same focus, like an f/16 for instance, I'd be looking at a shot like this. But if I want to go all the way down to an f/1.8, which I can do with my 85-1.8 lens, I would be having a very different look. I would be getting an even more dramatic look of that bouquet. Beautiful, thank you.
All these things come into play to be able to allow you to be able to control a situation no matter what is being presented. You need to be able to know what to do when things aren't working out. A lot of people think of depth of field as like, okay, so the background might be blurry or not. I mean, there's so much more to it.
See, if you could stay there till I count to 10 and not move. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You did it! You did it!
Depth of field will control the lighting of a situation, but it not only allows you to be able to get rid of things you don't want in a certain scene, it also allows you to have these beautiful environmental portraits. I think the trend a lot of people have been feeling is like, ooh, everything has to be shallow depth of field. But by doing that, sometimes you let go of this great ability to show your surroundings, which can tell a lot about the story of the shot you're trying to take. When I am looking through my viewfinder at the frame, I'm thinking, how do I make this as clean a shot as possible? How do I make it most interesting? What can I take out? Often it comes down to that. How can I unclutter the scene or reposition myself or reframe things so that it just looks more inviting, more interesting, more visually compelling? So simply by taking a couple steps to the left, reorienting my shot, so in terms of changing the composition and the framing, all the issues went away, and sometimes it's as simple as that. Anytime you're dealing with the elements, any sort of outdoor situation, you've got to consider weather, whether it's inclement weather or super hot weather or cold weather. You've got to think about lighting. Lighting shifts outside are just a fact of life.
And our backlight's gone.
I will often find myself in a situation where the clouds are in, okay, we just lost 2 stops, you know, or the clouds have moved away, or it's just got suddenly shockingly brighter. Being able to respond to those elements by saying, okay, I'm just gonna use a lot of fill light and we're gonna have a backlit shot, or I'm just gonna tilt the frame down, I'm gonna have you lean forward a little bit at the waist, and I'm gonna pull the reflector down, or use fill flash from a lower angle, and that way we'll take care of all that brightness coming in. Or that big cloud cover comes in, you say, okay, we're gonna have to brighten everything up, and we're gonna have to bring it to the silver side of the reflector and bring it up close so we can get a close-up shot now that we're battling this. I photographed sports and weddings for a long time. I don't do much of either anymore, but it has been incredible training for photographing kids because what you have is on the move, on the move, on the move.
Ready? Tell me when. No, wind back there. Excellent. Let's try it again.
When you're photographing active kids, you need to know shutter speed because that will make or break that action shot. If you're trying to show a kid running down and making a basket and you just don't have the right setting and your shutter speed is too slow, you're just gonna get an image where you missed it.
Ow!
When I'm going into a shoot and I know it's gonna be a lot of action, I go ahead and dial my shutter speed in because I like to shoot manual, and I'll be at 1/1000th of a second or 1/1250th of a second. Nowadays, the cameras are so strong in terms of being able to go to higher ISOs that really enables you to also kick up your shutter speed to a much faster rate to get that action pure and clean and sharp.
Whoa! That was brilliant. Do it again.
When I'm in a mode where I'm photographing a really quiet, simple portrait where the subject's gonna be right there and I'm just gonna use my single point focus to get a nice focus point, recompose for the framing composition I want, and click, that works beautifully for me, and I'll use it very often for that reason.
Okay.
When my subject stands up and starts getting erratic and starts moving around and gets very active, I'll switch to a continuous mode because they have that great predictive technology built into the cameras where I can just put my camera right here and say, okay, you run around and go everywhere you want, and we can keep going and I can get all the action sharp and beautifully done. One way I can almost guarantee I won't get the shot I want is to force a kid to do what I want. If I'm not playing along with them and reading their energy and I'm just trying over and over to get them to do something that they don't want to do, I'm not going to get that delightful expression. I'm going to get a resistant expression.
Perfect. Let's swim. But not yet.
So I like to ask them what they want to do, what they're up for, or they just tell me. I would like to get in the pool, you know? And then so in that scenario, I say, okay, how can I reframe this in a way that I'm still getting the shots I want? I still get the energy I want, I get the expressiveness I want. I'm gonna still use all those techniques I wanna use. You're gonna do what you wanna do. You'll bring the expression and I'll get the good shot.
Very nice job. When you come up, you're coming up like this, and then try to go like this as you go down. Same time, up and then down. Can you do it? All right.
For instance, when the two boys were playing basketball, it made a lot of sense to bring that hoop down. It was a much higher hoop, but when we brought it down, it became a lot more interesting to them because it was no longer something they couldn't do. They could actually dunk. And so we said, okay, you go ahead and dunk. I'll back up and I'll get you dribbling in and I'll get a shot. And then I'll say, you know what, just carry the ball, run in, and then do a few shots. And then you end up getting this series of images that look like they know exactly what they're doing. They're flying through, they've got these moves, they're dunking. In real life, they're just being playful and silly, but I'll often turn the camera around and show them the shots I'm getting, and then they think, wow, that looks good, and they get reinvigorated and they jump out. I'll change the angle from which I'm shooting. Maybe something's wide. Maybe I'm holding the camera off to the side and I'm playing with them and I'm joking, and I get these great images of them looking away and laughing, but they're actually talking to me. I just have the camera to my side, and then I'll flip and I'll climb under the hoop and tilt up and have a really wide open shot and have them come at me. Change the orientation, vertical, horizontal. They're doing what they want the whole time, but I'm still getting this great variety of shots with all this expressiveness. Portrait photography has changed a lot over the last just recent 10, 15 years. It used to be a lot more traditional and staid, and everything was kind of perfect on this well-lit background, and everything was clean and well done, and you had this perfect pose. And then over time, it's become a lot more focused on spirit and expression, and we've lost a lot of that traditional posing. I think one of the coolest ways to incorporate it all together is to take into account what were those rules and why are they there, and why do they have such an impact on flattering your subject. I can still get spirit expression. I can get, just the silliest of moments, but I can do it all in a way that's very flattering to my subject.
You're doing a great job. Try it. Ah, everybody looks delicious.
I like calling it organic directive posing. Just a phrase I use because that's what it strikes me as. There's some direction there, and it comes from these traditional posing rules, but it's gonna be organic. You're gonna make it who you are, and I'm gonna direct you, I'm gonna adjust you as we go. So the end result will be very much you, but with all these little elements that make up perfect posing. Sometimes it's a matter of sitting down and saying, okay, this is what I want you to do. I'm gonna sit here, and I'm gonna do exactly this. Copy me, mirror me, you come and do exactly what I'm doing.
I have you sit down like this and kind of do this. See me? Want to come around and see it? So we'll tuck this leg back a little bit and you'll just be like that. Okay. Very nice. Great job, Brody.
One of the biggest elements is basically in terms of how you angle the camera. If you want to highlight the eyes, when I photographed Mason up here in the coffee shop, I angled it in a way where her eyes were very striking, so I wanted them to be closest to the camera. So I posed her in a way but that was the first thing you saw. Like that, yeah. And then even maybe like this. So if this, maybe kick this over. If I can tilt the chin just a little bit this way and move the knees a little bit this way and make sure I bring the fill light right in here, I can do it all in a way that's very flattering to my subject. Tilt your chin up just a hair. Beautiful. When you think about those traditional rules, there's a few kind of like basics that you want to think about. Certainly shoulders. Your shoulders, we don't really think of it this way, but they control a lot of your body. You turn a little bit of this and everything's changed. The way your feet are facing. All you have to do is just say, hey, do me a favor, make your feet face that wall, and suddenly their entire body has changed. If your feet are facing that way and your head's towards me, you have a curve. There's some sort of curve to you, unless you're doing it very robotically. Oftentimes with children, some of these posing rules are just, you just have to say them a little differently. Right out of the gate, they'll start to do something, I'll get a great expression, and then I'll just adjust.
You're being a little bit of a rabbit. Try this. Try your hands like this, rabbit. Can you put this dinosaur hand here? Yep, and that dinosaur hand there. And all you're gonna do is be just a dinosaur standing there waiting for your big, I don't know, what do dinosaurs eat? Some of them are herbivores, right? Scooch this way, girlie, this way. Stop. Nope, back. Like this, little little bunny jumps. Go bunny jump back, bunny jumps. Stop. Excellent. Right like that. So take your bunny feet and your dinosaur hands, and then give me snake face. Very good snake face. I like that.
The angling that you take can give you the pose you want without having to address the subject at all. So for instance, if my goal is, if I'm the subject and you want me to kind of turn like this and do this, I may not do that if I'm a 3-year-old. I might be like, I don't know what you want. I mean, that's pretty normal. Instead, what you could say is stay right there, I'm gonna move over there, and then what you get is this shot. Just because of where you moved and how you either go on your tiptoes or go down a little bit, you'll get that same end result. All those aspects go into account when you're thinking about posing, and little reminders like tilt your chin up a bit, pull your hair out of your face, loosen your fingers. A lot of times those little elements will tell you a lot more about how relaxed or comfortable or engaged the subject is.
Gentle. See, not like this, but like this. Can you do that? Yeah, good, that's all you gotta do.
Some of the posing elements aren't even, kind of rules. They're just like, what do I see when I'm looking at my subject from the angle at which I'm shooting? And for instance, when I was photographing a little girl on the floor, I had her on her belly, and I'm taking this shot where I've got this long shot of the floor ahead of me, and we've got this great natural light, and we're kicking up some fill light back at her. I noticed that her feet are just simply, squared up behind her head, and it looks like these feet are coming out of her head. It looks very awkward. So I just simply have her kick her feet one way or the other, and just gives a lot more flow to the image. Again, you have that curve, which is just something you want to see a lot in portraits.
Beautissimus.
And so making a little shift like that as you see it goes a long way at keeping the energy flowing and lets you get the shot that you're really after. When I first started taking portraits, I'm like, just wear something comfortable. I don't really care, just show up and you're gonna be fine. But the truth is, you can have someone show up comfortable in jeans and a t-shirt, but the jeans don't fit really well, and the t-shirt's got a million graphic designs on it. And every element of posing and lighting is not gonna help the fact that this image doesn't work because it's so distracting what's going on. So I like to think through not only the clothes they're wearing, but how they coordinate with each other. I prefer avoiding anything that's like matching, but if I have a couple subjects together, I wanna make sure that these clothes touch off each other and coordinate in a way that's just very pleasing to the eye.
You could take something like this, pair it with something like this, with really fun jeans vest. Have this kind of cool layered effect, and even kind of grab an accessory if you want to put into the mix.
What I want is cohesiveness, so the clothing can really play a big part in that.
We could even pair it with some kind of little leggings or jeggings.
Sometimes it's not always maybe about what is the best wardrobe in terms of something you'd pick out of the store, but the best layering elements that will go together in a shoot. You end up getting a lot of really fun looks. The subject hopefully is comfortable and having fun, and the image is just that much better because the wardrobe works. I like having 3 outfits ready to go. So 3 outfits, we bring a bunch, we figure out what works best together. This is our priority outfit. We're gonna go to this one next. If we have a chance, we'll go to the 3rd one maybe, and we'll just see how things are going. That allows me to have a lot of different looks and feels, but 3 outfits is kind of a great way to set out and say, no matter what, we're covered for a lot of different things.
Yeah, because I like the way that would go with the gardens. I like this too. I think we start and then do a quick change.
For an individual, I'm probably thinking not only how the outfit flows and how it coordinates, obviously how they look in it in terms of the color, how it works with their skin tone, but also how it works with the environment. If I'm shooting in bright sun and they're wearing a bright white shirt, I'm just setting myself up for a whole host of problems that I can avoid by saying, not this one, you know?
All right, so because I'm gonna have the 3 of you together in the next shot, I need to adjust one of your clothing outfits to be a little more neutral to kind of connect you all. Yep, so do you want to put this, and you can put it underneath your jeans jacket too.
When I'm putting a couple people together, I like it to coordinate, and I don't mean coordinate like these 2 outfits are perfectly coordinated. I mean, maybe it's a pink top with a denim headband and denim jeans, but then the other girl has a pink dress with just a denim jacket. And then the other one might have just a small element of denim, not even denim, but a blue that looks like that, that's a stripe, you know, somewhere. And then some pale pink leggings or whatever the case might be. But the fact is it all goes together and it coordinates in a way that's just cool. Like little pieces go together, but these are clearly separate individuals that have a cohesive feel. A lot of photographers like to use props, just some elements that they bring in to a shoot to mix things up and let children hold something or play with something or whatever the case might be. Things that do work are objects that have meaning to the subject. So if it's, you know, a child who has this lovey that she never lets go of, yes, I want that in the image because that's kind of part of her right now. It becomes something that, you know, somebody in their teens looks back at a picture and said, oh my God, I never let that little stuffed dog go for like 5 or 6 years. It brings that portrait to that next level when that child was never letting something like that go. Real dogs, so we're talking about the stuffed cute dogs, but real dogs can be kind of posing prop things too.
If he's too crazy, we don't have to do this. I just love her shots right here, just her expressions.
You know, one of the images I photographed of the little girl laying on her floor, you know, she's on the back. I'm shooting kind of down with my LCD swiveled out so I can get kind of a cool live view shot. And she's got the puppy just kind of curled up next to her or playing alongside her, and she's kind of laughing about it. That's, you know, not necessarily a prop, but I think of it as a way to adjust the look and feel so you have another element in the portrait. When I think of framing and composition as two different pieces, it really helps me to make sure I'm controlling both of them. Because sometimes people place them together, composition and framing. Well, if you break those apart, you actually come at a shot in a more creative way. When you think of composition in terms of how everything is put in the frame, really it's just a form of organization. How am I going to organize all these elements inside the frame that I want to capture in a way that either makes sense to me or I find arresting or has me look at the image a little bit longer just to figure something out or to feel an emotion. Composition is a pretty critical part of photography in general. As composition goes, there's a few kind of basic rules and simple compositions that a lot of people follow. The rule of thirds, of course, where you have a tic-tac-toe and you have your access points and you place your subject in one of those access points. That is appealing visually for a reason. We kind of tend to look at an image, and when someone's put in one of those points, it's just a little more interesting to us. So there's the standard composition where it's a horizontal shot and someone's put in one of the access points. But you can also do that vertically as well, even with a straight up and down portrait by just adding a camera tilt. And by having that tilt, you've automatically now put the subject and their face and their eyes in one of those access points. And a lot of people don't necessarily know that that's why they find that a little more interesting, but it is one of the reasons why that does work. I actually think there's something that can be really powerful and arresting about a center composition as long as the subject that is center composed has something they're bringing to the table in terms of an energy or something that is strong enough to hold a center composition in a frame. That can be really fascinating. If it's not, if it's kind of just a simple, boring thing, then you want to mix it up a little bit more. Diagonals are fantastic. When I was photographing the little boy at the treehouse, I had a verticals where he was posed really cool and had a bit of a tilt, and then I went around the stairs, and then he had all these diagonals coming across, and then the way he's framed in the right upper third access point and the diagonals coming across. Again, it just makes the whole frame just have this cool, interesting way that leads you in and really does catch your eye versus just, again, that straight vertical portrait. When I think about framing, I'm thinking more about the angling and the positioning in terms of taking that shot. So by shooting maybe overhead down at a subject or very, very low tilting up with everything else the same, I've changed the shot pretty radically just by adjusting my framing. The angle from which I choose to shoot is going to affect the shot pretty dramatically. If I'm photographing a 3-year-old who's about, I don't know, 3 feet high, I'm gonna be at that same level. I'm gonna kind of crouch down so I'm eye level and getting that shot. If I wanna mix things up and kind of make it a lot more playful, I might have something where someone's on their belly to the ground and I'm gonna be belly to the ground across from them getting that shot. Those are all ways I'm just gonna meet my subject physically, literally where they are and get that angle.
While we're here, let me take 2 seconds because this already looks so cute. And let's do this a little bit.
One of the images I loved getting was a little girl on the ground with her hair just spread out all around her. Using the swivel LCD so I could kind of have it right over her. I now have so much more power with being able to navigate the back of the display and be able to see the shot I'm getting versus having to go over the subject and possibly have my feet in the shot. And I could do horizontal and have her kind of 1/3 of the frame. I can do vertical, just tight up and down. I can shift a lot with that same shot by hardly much movement, but because I've got a wider focal length and I'm holding the camera out and it's really close to my subject, the smallest movements change the composition and framing radically. A fantastic way to feature something about an individual that really stands out to you, something that you find striking, is to use angling to go ahead and emphasize that. And by shooting at this angle, I'm gonna make sure that I get your eyes really prominent in the portrait. Lovely. And I could shoot a little bit lower here, but I'm not gonna get that same kind of pop. I photographed our senior in the cafe, and I made a point of angling my camera down a little bit, just a little bit down, so that the first thing that hit the lens in terms of what you're seeing are those eyes, which made them stand out even more and have them be more striking and even more large. If a child has really striking, cool hair, for instance, I'll make sure that they're leaning forward or they shake the hair or they play with that because I want that to be emphasized, and I'm gonna angle my camera so that that's something that's coming forward first.
That's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Aren't you gonna lick him back?
As much as I'm paying attention to composition when I'm out on a shoot, if there's a moment that happens and it's just for a moment, I wanna make sure I get it. So maybe I'm not perfectly composing that shot, but I know I have the opportunity to do it in post by just simply cropping the shot. A great example might be when I was photographing a little boy and the dog all together, and they were looking at each other, and that was a little bit more center composed than I would have wanted, but the shot I will deliver, I will show, I will put up on my wall will be the composition adjusted through cropping it to what I want it to look like. It's really great to mix up your images, whether you shoot in camera, in color, and then switch to black and white and shoot just directly in black and white, or do it in post. Some images just really lend themselves to, gosh, these would be beautiful in black and white. For the most part, I like photographing in color. I like the vibrancy. I like showing all the elements of all the colors around the children and pets and such. There are some scenes, like for instance, I was photographing the little boy at the pool, where you can look at that image and yeah, I've got a really fun, bright pool image, but what if this were all black and white and it were a series and suddenly everything just seems much cleaner, a little more timeless, a lot more focused on just the child versus the competing colors and elements around him. And you can take the image right there, you can say I'm gonna shoot all of this in black and white in camera, or you can just say I'm gonna go in post-production, switch it all to black and white, and have this great series of kind of really fun, timeless black and whites. So I can have the best expression in the world, I could have the best interaction in the world, I could have the best pose in the world, but if I didn't light it well, I kind of lost it. So when I'm on a shoot, I'm thinking about several things as it relates to how I'm lighting a shot. The very simplest way to break it down is I want a main light. Where's the main light coming from when it hits my subject? I want a fill light. How do I fill in the shadows that are caused by the main light? And I want a rim or a hair light, something that lights up the back of my subject or separates my subject from the background in a way where they're not just blending in. You don't have to go into a multiple light kit setup to have a great shot that has all those elements covered. I think it's pretty common to take a portrait where you've got a great main light, but you're not really thinking about fill. The way a reflector works, it's you have this white or silver or gold round or square object that simply bounces light, and then it softly in this diffused way will then fill in the shadows that are caused by the main light on your subject's face and let those catch lights really pop. And you can see a really powerful transformation in an image by simply pulling the reflector away and then bringing it in.
Oh my goodness, the difference, it's crazy.
I've taken multiple shots where I actually hold the reflector or kick my foot out or have the child hold the reflector. There's a lot of ways you can use a reflector without somebody there, but it's so much more helpful if you can have someone there to navigate the refill light by adjusting the shot up and down, left or right, and get a shot where your subject really pops because they're well lit all the way around.
What we see right here is we have a catch light, a natural catch light in his left eye and none in his right eye. And I really like the consistency of having both eyes lit up. So let's bring in the reflector. We'll just bring in the soft side of the reflector.
Other factors that I really love to think about when it comes to portraits are catch lights. The catch light in the eyes, those specular highlights that show up in the eyes, and that can really make a subject sparkle. I mean, truly, they go from kind of a flat kind of look to like, boom, you can see the eyes, and there's a sharpness there that really shows the aliveness of the subject.
Ooh, did you see that big light change?
Speed lights are a great way to have quite a powerful source of light with you at all times. I love being in a situation where maybe I'm in a home and it's a little darker, I'm away from a window, but I want a shot. I can simply put my off-camera flash on my camera, bounce the light and bounce the flash, which means you have that swivel head on your flash. You can tilt it towards a white wall or up in the ceiling. Dial in TTL, like mode TTL, and then let the equipment do the job of reading the exposure of the situation and giving me the output of light I need to get a clean shot.
I'm gonna get some photographs here with this bright sun. Why don't we stop right around here? You obviously have a lot of light coming in behind you, so you're lit.
If you walk into a situation like outside in a park where there's a lot of light coming behind your subject, you can just dial in TTL, face your subject, click, and have your camera do the work. Your camera and lens together will do the work and will tell you the right exposure and light them well. You can then also have the option to say, you know what, I think I want to control this a little bit more. I've been shooting with TTL for a while. I'm going to pop it over to a manual mode, and you can choose your exposure. Just simply go up and down. I want to have it a little bit brighter or a little darker. If you don't understand all the components of how that works, you can simply just check the back of your camera and play that way. So it's fun to just say, okay, I'm going to do TTL, let my camera do all the work, and now I'm going to move into manual and see if I can't learn a little bit more and have a little more fun with this. Backlight is a very cool opportunity to walk out into a time of day where it's not optimal to shoot maybe. Whether it's super bright overhead light or it's just a little too harsh, you can't really turn your subject to face the light because they're going to squint or they're going to have a strained expression. You can simply turn their back to the light and have that light kind of help them give a rim light and a hair light, and they kind of glow a little from behind, and then fill in the shadows with either a reflector or a fill flash. A couple elements you want to think about though when you're using backlight. First and foremost is what parts of your subject are not covered and how harshly is the light hitting them. If you have a subject with long hair, for instance, and it's held up around their face in a way where it's kind of covering a lot of their shoulders and such, you can get a really great tight portrait where everything looks very clean, as if you actually brought in a rim light and a hair light and you have the fill light and it's perfect. Other times you might want to watch what you're doing is if you have a subject with shorter hair and that light's really strongly coming in from behind them, you can find that the soft tissue around the ears start to glow. Like you have almost an orangey or orby kind of look around the ears of a subject, and you can reconcile that in a couple different ways. One, you can actually back them up into more of a shady spot. Number two, you can kind of look at where the sun line hits on the ground and then just say, I'm going to take you right to the edge of that light where you're still getting the benefit of the backlight, but we don't have your orangey ears, for instance, and then we'll just keep shooting. So everything else is about the same, but we're not going to have to combat that anymore.
Nicole, would you switch it and bounce it so it's coming up on his face? Now splash the heck out of me.
We don't always get the situation we want when we go to take a photograph. Probably one of the more common things I find myself battling is background. Like, what am I shooting against and what is behind my subject that might actually interfere with the look I want? In a house, for instance, window light is beautiful. You can use window light and have your subject to the side, fill in the shadows and kind of even out the light a little bit. Or you can actually turn your subject directly against the window, but behind them is maybe a parking lot or some unsightly things that I don't want in my shot. You can use shallow depth of field and lighting to go ahead and blow that out. And what I mean by that is you're actually technically overexposing the background, something that technically you try not to do, but in this case you're saying, okay, I only want my subject to pop, and I want all of that to go away. And so I'm gonna use my technical settings and my lighting capabilities to achieve a result where they're still popping, I have this window light benefit, but I'm taking out anything in the background that distracts me from what I want to show.
Brilliant. I love it.
When I'm working with pets, obviously it's so much fun. I love it. I could sit there and photograph pets for hours and hours and hours and hours. It's something where I think that all animals respond to your energy very, very much. But when you are genuinely having fun and enjoying it and welcoming them, and they respond to that. That is actually one of the initial elements that has nothing to do with gear or lighting or anything. It's simply that exchange.
Good boy. Good boy.
Pets can be pretty sensitive in regard to noise and energy and tactile experiences, how things feel to them. So often what I'll do when I'm thinking about how to photograph a puppy or a dog or a cat is think about where they're most comfortable and where they're least likely to just get up and leave me while I'm trying to do this photo shoot. When we were photographing our Great Dane puppy, the beautiful little creature, we started out by had everything set up and tried to bring him in and have him sit down just on the floor as it was. And he was having none of it. He just kept getting up and leaving. And the realization was he just wasn't even comfortable.
Let's bring in the blue rug.
So by bringing in simply a soft rug for him to lay on, changed the whole dynamic. Sometimes a simple movement like that can really change the energy and the feel and the comfort level of the pet.
Aww.
With puppies and kittens, one of the best tools at your disposal is simply your voice. And it's a combination of calling them, using their name, using affectionate voice, you know, like, ooh, good doggy. It's amazing how well that works. But in addition, using just really squeaky, weird, awkward noises and just adjusting it up and down. And dogs will do that. They'll look at you, you'll go really high pitch, and they'll kind of look at you and then you go, and you can almost have like a little dance going on. It's really fun. So it's one of my best tools.
It's all fun and games till he attacks me.
It's something where I don't love watching myself back and hearing all those noises come out of my head. Oh, God, the eyes, the eyes. In terms of just producing a great still frame with the expression I want from that pet, like a playful weirdness, it does produce great results. It gets great expressions.
Give me the reflector a little bit more on his eyes. Just do catch light.
With pets, you can lose a lot of light in that fur. And it's the same thing with the eyes. With eyes, I want catch light. I want to bring in a reflector, or I want to have a fill light, and I want those eyes to really pop. Puppies and kittens in many ways are like newborn, like babies. Actually, when they're asleep, they become extremely malleable. You can put them in all these different positions and they'll just kind of just let you do whatever because they're sound asleep. And puppies are the same way. You can take a puppy and say, all right, I'm gonna put your leg over here and your head here and flop your ear out and adjust you just so, and I'm gonna get really down and I'm gonna light this, and you're just gonna sleep through all of it. Wonderful. And often there's a limited window that you get that. And so you take it and you quickly shoot and get all the shots you want, because then they wake up and just like that, they're ready to go again.
Yeah, just like that, just like that. Genius, grab the reflector real quick. Oh my gosh. So it's really helpful to get a shot when you've got what you got, and then just keep adjusting it till it gets perfect. So you just keep building it to what you want, but don't miss, because you may not get this again, because I don't see dogs sleep this way ever.
Some of my favorite images are pets and their children. There are some kids who love taking photographs of their pets. They're all over them and they're snuggling them and they're kissing them and they're getting slobber and they're laughing and they're loving it. And there's others that are gonna be, just practice a lot more trepidation when you say, get snuggly. Like, they love their pet, but they don't necessarily wanna get super close because it's still a little nerve-wracking that this creature has claws and teeth, you know? And kind of making a decision when you're photographing them together as to What makes more sense for this situation and this relationship?
Kind of lay on your belly facing me right there. Try to maybe avoid the brown. There you go. Just come on down, and then we're gonna bring Muggsy in right next to you and see how it goes.
Did a shoot with a little boy and dog, the belly to the ground. It just seemed like it was a little bit, trying to push them together wasn't really working.
Ready? Okay, ready? All right, Patty, jump out. All right, ask him.
So instead of, again, forcing that, you say, all right, let's get up and change the situation. Let's have you sit a little higher off the ground, a little more separate, and have you lean in together or face each other, and suddenly the comfort level is there and you're getting the shot you want. And just being able to read that situation as it's happening and respond accordingly can make a huge difference. I like working with a variety of lenses on every shoot I do. If nothing else, it forces me to get a lot of different looks, composition, framing styles. It just, every time you put a new lens on, you've got to refigure out the shot. So having various lenses allows me various looks in the same scene where the subject's in the same place and I'm in the same place. By simply changing the lens, I'm gonna have a whole different look. As a professional photographer going out on shoots, there are several lenses that are just always in my bag because they're my favorite lenses to use. There's the 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8 lens, which I love for the workhorse capabilities. I can do a whole lot with that one lens as it relates to very wide shots, going in a lot tighter, being able to have an atmospheric look and a portrait while there's very little movement is just a huge bonus. So I love the 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8 lens. I also love the 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 lens because I can stand back, I can let the action happen, I can calm down any sort of energy that might be kind of out of control with a shoot by just backing up. It's great for sports and actions. It's a very fast to focus lens. One of my other favorite lenses is the 105-1.4. It is just gorgeous in terms of being able to capture some beautiful, that portrait with that extremely shallow depth of field, really get your subject to pop and have that really creamy background behind them. The other lens that is quite like that is the 85-1.4, another fantastic portrait lens and one I've used for years. I also really like the 35mm 1.4 lens. It's just kind of a really different, quirky, great lens that allows you to get great groups, families, a collection of pets together, but still be able to control a prime, beautiful shot. Using a variety of these lenses myself, I find that each one of them has their own almost personality in terms of its attributes and its character and what it can deliver. The shorter zoom lenses can give you a lot of capability when you have a wide angle at one end and a longer focal length at the other end, because you can take one lens and hit up a variety of situations. One of the reasons that I will have one of those in my bag at all times is if I don't know what I'm walking into, and I mean that literally but also figuratively, in that sometimes you don't know what the scene is gonna be if you're kind of out and about and jumping around. You don't know what the lighting's gonna be, you're not sure how small the space might be. It's great to have something in your bag that's gonna be versatile enough to use in a variety of situations and you know you're covered. And then the longer zoom lenses give you, maybe you can't go as wide to start with, but you can go a lot further and a lot longer in terms of your focal length reach. Because there are times where children are just sick of a lens in their face and you've been shooting for an hour and you're getting great shots and you want to keep going and you need to give them a break. But you might still want to keep collecting those documentary style shots. So putting on a long lens, backing up, really changes the energy of a shoot and allows you to keep shooting without kind of pushing them too much. Some of the great portrait lenses, like an 85mm or 105mm, are great because it's kind of that great flattering look. Having a lens with a depth of field capability where you can go really shallow with your aperture, where you're maybe on an f1.8 or an f2, it allows you the capability to place your subject basically in front of any backdrop and make it work. So I had an instance where I was photographing a little girl out in the field in the park, and behind her were like trash cans and recycling bins and utility truck. It was terrible looking, but by simply adjusting my settings to have that wonderful shallow depth of field, that was all gone in this creamy, blurry mess behind her, and she just popped out. And it's one of the great things about utilizing depth of field, to be able to manage challenging situations. Many of the lenses that I have and love have vibration reduction built in. A great reason why you'd want to use vibration reduction is perhaps in a low light situation where you have a longer focal length on your lens. So maybe you're shooting with a 70 to 100 millimeter, for instance, and you have the opportunity to get unintentional blur by just the fact that you're holding a longer lens and you can have camera shake. So the same shot you take with the same settings with vibration reduction off would be much more sharpened and clearer, and you'd get the great shot you want by simply turning on vibration reduction to control that camera shake for you.